is the incredibly thoughtful and hilarious Spenser Field, affectionately known by her nearly 40,000 followers as thirdpea. Spenser has built a deeply relatable online presence through her candid storytelling, quirky humor, and real, unfiltered take on life, covering everything from her OCD journey to dogs and being deeply online. She's known for taking trends on the internet and trying them herself, often with a hilarious or heartfelt twist. Whether she's sharing a vulnerable moment or making us laugh with her being influenced videos, Spenser keeps it real in a way that resonates, and I am so excited to have her here today.
Spenser, thank you for joining me and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited to have this conversation with you. And the first thing I have to ask before we get started is, how is Jax?
He's good. He's asleep on the couch behind me, actually. He just let out a big sigh, so he must know. But yeah, he's back there right now. He's snoozing. He's a chill boy, so he's just hanging out.
Yeah. And that's how you and I actually are connected. I briefly fostered her rescue and have been following your journey with him ever since, which I'm so glad he's in good hands.
Oh, he's the best. All happened how it was supposed to happen, and he's gonna be 5 at the end of it all. So,
oh, happy birthday, Jax! I want to start with how you came up with thirdpea. How did that all start?
I am the youngest of 3 sisters. So when I was born, my parents sent out like a birth announcement. It was, now we're 3 peas in a pod. And so since I'm the youngest, I'm the third pea. But yeah, and it's followed me, and it kind of just, became an identifier, and I love it. My sisters are awesome. So they're 10 and 8 years older than me. So I really am really the anchor of, the 3 of us. Just how I identify as third pea. So
it's a great identifier. I've always been curious about how you came up with that. And it makes sense that you found that one thing that's kind of, I bet you use it as a username.
Yep.
Yeah. What about you're now based in Massachusetts?
Yes. Yeah. I live south of Boston.
Okay. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your journey, East Coast, West Coast, and in between there?
Yeah, no, of course. I grew up actually where we're living now. Ended up going to college in New York, studied, shout out to Fordham, studied communications and media studies, knew that I wanted to either get into TV or media. When I graduated from college, actually came back to Boston for about a year, lived with my friends. It was like a fun experience. And then I knew that when it came to media at that time, which was about 2015, 2016, Boston wasn't really the place for that. So I decided to move to LA. I remember my sisters were like, "You're not really moving to LA." And I was like, "Yep." I was like, "I've saved enough money from my serving job and I will be moving to LA." So I did. Got there around September of 2016. Applied to so many jobs. Found a BuzzFeed listing for concierge front desk. Knew that I wanted to get into media anyway, and your thought process is, okay, like, where can I get my foot in the door? So I met my manager, Greta. She's also an East Coast girl, so we bonded over that. And she brought me on as a receptionist for one of the new buildings that we were opening. And I ended up doing that for about 3 years. I got to work at the front desk, but I also got to be in videos, which is something that was fun. I don't think I ever knew I wanted to be in videos as much as I thought I just wanted to produce and direct and things like that. But I really enjoyed it. The pandemic hit. It was April 2020. They started announcing furloughs. I knew that the reception position, because we didn't know how long that was going to last, was going to be phased out and sunsetted, because you don't need someone at a front desk if an office isn't open. So I fought really hard for that position, got hired full-time onto the video team, and did that up until January 2023 when I became a lead video producer. got to work on more strategy, creative strategy, working on multiple brands underneath the BuzzFeed umbrella. And that was really fun. But something I found in that is that I really like to create. I started being a creator specifically for BuzzFeed, which was really great. Layoffs happen. I got laid off last February. It's fine. I had the best 8 years at BuzzFeed. I will never regret a minute of it. It was awesome. I don't look back, and I'm not sad about it. There were many a layoff while I was there, and chances are it was going to hit me at some point, and it did. We had already made the decision to move back to the East Coast. Again, as I mentioned, I have 2 older sisters. With that comes my nieces and nephews. My oldest niece was 8. By the time we moved back, I had been in LA for 8 years. So I have 6 nieces and nephews, and they were all born while I was in California. And they're all pretty much local. So coming home meant that I would be able to spend more time with them. I wasn't watching them grow up over FaceTime anymore. And I get to spend more time with my parents. Naturally, my parents are getting older. So this time to spend with them is really important to me. My boyfriend, my partner, he is from New Jersey. So that works out. His dad now lives in Hudson Valley. So it works out. His brother just had twins. Like it's awesome to be home. We did leave his other brother in LA, which is not great. That's actually how we met, through that brother. So that's fine. But so we're back here now. It's different than when I left, and it's different than LA. But it's just nice to be home.
I want to dive back into this online voice that you've created. You have built this audience and these followers, and I think a lot of people probably can relate to the videos that you've done. It's like all of these crazy internet trends that have been out there. It's like people might be too scared to try them, but you're going to do them so they don't have to.
Yeah.
What has that experience been like for you, and the response to you creating this online voice and this online brand?
It's funny. I'll watch some of the first videos I ever made, and I listen to myself talk, and I'm like, I don't know who that is. Like, obviously, you become more comfortable on camera, and you fall into your own voice the more you create. So it's interesting. Prior, I think I was doing what I thought I was supposed to do on camera, and then I really fell into, like, I'll just talk like me. And once I started doing that, people were really receptive to it. The whole I've been influenced situation, it's just, first, it was super fun to me. Like I love trying things so other people don't have to. Also, as someone who consumes media and consumes social videos, I took a lot of signal from that. So a lot of the videos that I make or that I made were really because they were things that I knew if I was interested in them and I wanted to try them, someone else wanted to, but maybe they didn't have the time, didn't have the means to try it, or they just want to watch someone else do it. Again, you were talking about your masochistic relationship with LA. Some people have that. Me, with trying trends that I know maybe won't work. I brushed my teeth with baking soda and food dye. Like, will that work? Maybe. Are the chances that it will high? No, but I'll try it because someone else did online. It's funny. I've become very open on socials, mostly because I love to see when other people are like that. If someone else is celebrating their own personality, I'm more likely to watch it. Those are the kinds of socials that I enjoy watching. So I'd love to do that for someone else. And sharing, I'm an oversharer as it is. I can talk a lot about things that probably no one wants to know about, but it's fun for me to share that stuff online. And if I can have fun doing it, Seth, my partner, and I, we're huge foodies. So if it's something that has to do with like a trend that's happening with food, we're probably going to try it anyway. So why not record it and put it online? Someone else is going to want to watch it. Yeah. So it's a lot of me taking signal from my own interests and my own life and being like, someone else is either going through this, B also wants to try this, or C, like, it's just a fun thing to watch. So I don't know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of figuring out whether to care about the negative stuff, which honestly, truly, I'm lucky that I haven't really dealt with a ton of negativity. And maybe that comes with authenticity. I don't know, but it's just been a really fun experience.
Yeah. Well, you are very authentic online. And I think that that's one of the things, I mean, I feel obviously you and I have never met in person, and I follow you online, and but a lot of the video and the content that you create, it doesn't feel staged, or it does feel very authentic. And I think the one of the things that I keep coming back to is how open and honest you are, and how you do keep it real, whether it's like it's the good, the bad, the ugly. So I think that is just, I think kudos to you for doing that. And I think when I reached out to you, the one of the conversations that you had online was about your journey with OCD. And you sharing that with your followers, and just being open and honest about that. And I want to know, if you take it back to the beginning of what that journey to get there was like for you, where it started, where you were like, this doesn't feel right for me. This feels, talk me through how that started.
Okay. I've dealt with anxiety my whole life. I always labeled it as anxiety. There was always something going on. Now, obviously, I have a label for it. But it's funny because if you asked me 10, 15 years ago, would I ever be talking about it? A, I didn't know what to label it. And B, like, I didn't want to talk about what was going on in my brain. I didn't even want to like touch it with a 10-foot pole. Like, I wasn't interested in talking to anyone about it because I didn't even understand what was going on in my brain. So, I mean, we can take it back to BuzzFeed. The OCD journey is, I met Seth in 2018. 2019. Anything before 2020 to me is a blur. Anyway, I was 25 when we met. My birthday was that upcoming May. Seth and I had been dating for about 3 months, maybe 4. And I was in the worst place. I was in the best situation relationship-wise that I'd ever been in. I'd always been really attracted to like chaos and like just trying to fix something. And that hadn't served me in the past. I was now with this person who is like a rock. Grounds me, is like the best thing ever. And I'm looking at myself and I'm like, what is wrong? Like, nothing should be wrong now, but I'm in the worst place mentally that I've ever been. At that point, what I know now are obsessions and intrusive thoughts were at an all-time high. I was not doing well. I could barely sleep, always slept with the TV on. I just like was not well. Fast forward to May, it was my 26th birthday. I went into work at the front desk at BuzzFeed, and everyone I worked with, I loved everyone I worked with. They were so sweet. People brought me some gifts to the front desk. They got me a cake. My team at that time was just so loving. They were saying these wonderful things to me. People who I didn't expect to say nice things to me were saying nice things to me. And the entire time in my head, I was like, I don't deserve anything they're saying. And there was a part of my brain that knew that like that wasn't true. But there was this large, very loud part of my brain that was saying like, they don't know what goes through your head. They don't know like who you really are, whatever. And that smaller part, quieter part of my brain that was like, this isn't good. Red flag. We need to figure out what's going on. It was a quieter, smaller part of my brain, but I'm lucky that I listened to that, because I went home that day and I had another friend at BuzzFeed who had a therapist that she really, really liked. Myself and my friend are very similar. So I thought, okay, she has this therapist she loves. I'll reach out. I got home the day of my birthday and called that therapist. I don't remember anything I said, but I do know that I was like sobbing on the phone, leaving her a voicemail. I like laugh now because I'm like, I don't even know what that voicemail said. And I'm like blubbering on the other end of the line. But I always say it's the best birthday present I ever gave myself, because if I hadn't reached out and then subsequently gone through therapy and got a psychiatrist, like that therapist very possibly could have saved my life. Like she and my psychiatrist together were really great in showing me what was going on with my brain. They gave me a label, and getting the label of obsessive compulsive disorder was huge for me because, and this is something that happens with a lot of people who are diagnosed, it usually takes people like 10 to 17 years to get diagnosed with OCD because of like the mainstream idea of what OCD is, which is like organization and being super clean and hand washing and like counting and the tapping, which are all very valid. The contamination OCD is a huge part of what OCD is for some people, but it's not just that. Like there are so many forms of OCD that exist, and without any education on that, I would have never thought that what I was dealing with was OCD. And so was going through therapy. It's not necessarily something that I felt super comfortable talking to my family about until I understood it more. Even still today, you know, there are some thoughts that I don't think I'd ever say out loud, but I know how to deal with them now because I have a label and because I can now ground myself in knowing that like it is OCD and I can separate who I am from the thoughts that go through my brain. I always say that OCD, like it can be called sticky brain because for some people thoughts go in and out and you don't get stuck on them. But for people with OCD, especially those of us who have mental compulsions, you know, most thoughts go in and out of your head, but there are some thoughts that stick and then you start obsessing over them. And then it becomes a rumination thing and you're trying to either like seek assurance or through other people or the media or, you know, just educating yourself, or you're like trying to confess your thoughts and whatever. A lot of it is, and I might say this wrong, is ego dystonic. So it's very much opposite of like who you actually are. And the saying you are not your thoughts is so true because anything can go through anyone's head. It doesn't mean, you know, that defines them. Because many of these things no one would ever act on. A lot of people will be like, oh, my intrusive thoughts. I'm like, those are impulsive thoughts. The intrusive thoughts are the ones that stick and scare the shit out of you. Sorry. Yeah. But it's true. Yeah. And being able to talk about that and find different accounts online. There are some Instagram accounts that have really like changed my perspective of myself, especially in those earlier days when I was trying to understand the OCD more. And then you realize how many other people have OCD.
Right.
And you're like, oh, okay.
But it's also getting there where people still feel that it is still very misunderstood because it's, yes, as you said, so. You know, I think the tapping or the needing to wash your hands 25 times or whatever it might be. And I think especially as women, we struggle with being able to talk about our panic disorder or and I think it's important that we are able to finally have a label to something, because then we know, okay, well, there's a label and that's the first step in this, and then where do we go from here? And so once you had that label and you knew where to go from there, what did that look like for you? SSRIs, therapy, how do you ground yourself, and how do you keep in touch on those days that might feel hard?
So something that really helped me was meditation. And I know a lot of people will say, well, I can't meditate. Like I can't it's hard for me to meditate. And I totally understand that, because I think when I first started meditating with any of those meditation apps, it was really difficult. But something that's really important with OCD and any, mental health issue is tools that you can use to, help the situation and help you get out of those moments where you're ruminating or anything like that. And meditation was huge for me, because not only because it, helped my nervous system, but because within some of those guided meditations are tools that you can use, like breathing techniques and things like that, and ways that you can talk to yourself about your thoughts and just like say like, no, thank you. And things like that. Meditation and mindfulness was huge for me. Because it totally changed the way that I looked at those more anxiety attack, panic attack moments, and being able to kind of like look at what was happening as opposed to being engulfed by it. And when it comes to the SSRIs, I had always been on an SSRI. I went to my pediatrician when I was younger and said, my sister is on this and my dad is on this. I think I should be on this. And she just said, fine, and gave me 10 milligrams of Celexa. Fine. But no one felt like telling me that I had to take it every day. So I really lacked the education when it came to taking my SSRI. And I think partially it was a Band-Aid on a situation, because I didn't really know what was going on mental health wise, or what I actually had. I didn't have a diagnosis. So I lacked the education when it came to the medicine that I was taking. And so when I did finally reach out to my therapist and reach out to my psychiatrist, Celexa was the right thing for me to be on, but I also needed to know how to take it and needed a proper dosage based on what was happening. So I'm very proud to say I'm on 30 milligrams of Celexa now, but like it took a while to figure out the right, dosage, what was actually going to work for me. It's not just the medication that helps me, it's the mindfulness that I do too. It's the tools that I've learned to separate myself from those moments where I start like ruminating again. For me, and I think it's hard sometimes for people to understand, because my OCD is relatively invisible. It doesn't really manifest itself in a physical capacity. So, I mean, aside from me struggling like myself, but it's not something you can see. You can't see me ruminating in my head. You can't see me doing all the mental checks that I do to get myself out of that. But I've learned all these tools to help myself in those moments so I can get myself out of it. And, being open and honest about it for me is one of those tools. If I learn something, because again, I've only been diagnosed since I turned 26, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning so much about different types of OCD. I encourage anyone to look up the different types of OCD, because I guarantee you'll be surprised by the types that there are. There are different obsessions, different things that can kind of trigger something. Like as a kid, now looking back, if I had a bad, what I called an anxiety night, I would never wear those PJs again. And now I know that was a manifestation of OCD. But there were little things like that sprinkled throughout my life that now I can look back and say, okay, like that's what that was. This is how I could have handled it. I used to not be able to watch movies. I had a really hard time sitting down and like eating dinner just because I didn't want anything to come up. I had a hard time reading books. I used to have to take social media breaks because like I was mostly worried that things would trigger an obsession, and I never knew what the obsession would be. And then that caused me anxiety. So I've learned different tools, the mindfulness things, and everyone has their own journey. But I'm just really lucky that I've learned those tools. I'm able to share that with other people. Allegra Castens, she has a Instagram account that has been so helpful to me. I actually found her through my friend Jasmine, who I worked with at BuzzFeed. And there's just such a community. So I think the tools finding community, that's been huge. Just to understand myself and understand other people who are going through it has been so valuable. Yeah, it's been a crazy journey. So
yeah, I can
I'm
imagine.
happy to be where I'm at now. Yeah.
Yeah. You mentioned the invisible piece. And I think that that's so important to talk about because there's so many things that you can't see, but people can't see what's happening, the intrusive thoughts in your brain, or the invisible pain you might feel with a chronic illness. And it's getting in front of the right people, I feel, to help you, to actually listen to you and be able to say, okay, I hear you, and let's figure out what resources are available to you. Did you find in sharing any of your story or sharing your diagnosis that there were people who just didn't understand what that was like, and how did you, what was your reaction to that?
I think it's interesting. Even with my family, right? I have one sister who, well, both my sisters are very understanding of it. One sister who kind of understands it with her own experience. But it's interesting, right? You don't want I think sometimes family, especially parents, especially, don't want their child to think that there's something wrong with them. And they also don't want to think anything's wrong with you. So I think it's been a journey, especially in sharing my diagnosis and things like that, to getting my parents to understand that like it's a real thing that I'm dealing with. Not that they didn't believe me, they did, but educating them on it is also something I had to do for them to fully understand. It was actually a huge deal to me, I think a year ago, last summer, probably. My mom looked at me, who previously, like, she cares about what I'm going through, and we'd talk about it, but she would never kind of broach the topic. But we were in her car, we had parked in her driveway, and she just looked at me, she was like, "So how is everything with your OCD going?" And it's just not something that previously we had necessarily talked about at length. I had mentioned it and I had said, I'm going to therapy now and I have a diagnosis and all of this, but like she really wanted to know more. And especially when it came to having to take medicine for it, there's something with like that generation where they see it as like, you don't want to need medicine. And I think as she educates herself more, as she potentially needs medicine or people around her need medicine for like any type of reason, I think she's now more understanding that I'm not on an SSRI as like a crutch or because like I want to be. It's something that helps me have a quality of life that is necessary to live a happy life. And I've said in the past, I was functioning before and I'm living now. Like since my diagnosis when I turned 26, I think prior to that I was functioning as well as I could with the lack of information and the lack of tools and like lack of knowledge on even what was going on. And like now I'm able to live and doing more in that time of my life that I was only functioning. Yes, because I have a lot of memories that I actually don't have because I think I was in fight or flight a lot of my life. But it's been a lot of educating people. I will post in different jobs that I've had. I post those OCD things and I don't know if coworkers I'm going to see are going to see those things and be curious about it or ask me about it. It has happened in the past where I've posted something on my Instagram and someone's like, "I didn't know that." Like, yeah, it's another example of like everyone's going through something and you don't know. So there have been conversations that I've had to have. It's opened up conversations with other people who didn't know that I was going through that and they're also going through that. It's really I don't know that I've experienced anything negative following opening up about it, as much as I've just had to educate people. And I don't mind educating people because it helps someone else down the road. And it's really, there's a lot of stigmas that go along with either like taking an SSRI or any type of medication or, you know, mental illness. Like, it exists, and you really just have to, it's up to the individual to figure out how to deal with it, and also find the correct care and people who listen to you. But, which is frustrating, that I always find it frustrating. I've been very, very lucky that with the experience that I've had with a therapist and a psychiatrist who fully believed me, and maybe that comes with also being in LA, because it's maybe a different understanding out there than even it is in my hometown. I mean, I have pink hair in a very small town on the South Shore. I stick out like a sore thumb, but it's those kind of moments where, like, I'm happy to educate people, or like bring something different into their lives, and make them understand something that they previously probably didn't know about, or B, didn't understand. So I'm doing that for my parents. I'm doing that for my family. Also, the more open I am about it personally, I feel like the less I have to hide about it. You know, I'm living authentically in what I'm experiencing, and people can either get with it or get out of the way. That's how I feel sometimes.
That's a good mentality to have. I love that you also had that aha moment with your mom.
Yeah.
I have this driving anxiety that I've developed. I've always been the driver. I love to drive. I've driven across the country multiple times. But something in the last couple of years, I have this feeling where I don't know if it's a control thing, that I'm going to lose control. And my mom, it has caused situations where I've had to pull over, and I've had to breathe, and I'm having a full-blown panic attack, and I'm doing jumping jacks on the side of the freeway. But my mom has, a couple of weeks ago, she sent me an article for a therapist who specifically targets this type of anxiety. And it's not necessarily something that can be, it's the way anxiety might be coming out, not necessarily that I'm having this specifically that I'm afraid to drive. But it was that moment of my mom taking the time to research it and to send me the information on it and be like, I was like, wow, you heard me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe not knowing exactly how to fix it or solve it as our parents would want to do, but to know that somebody's listening and is like, I want to understand this. It's a very powerful thing.
Yeah, because I mean, our parents don't want us to suffer. So naturally, and I know this about my mom, like, she doesn't want me to be suffering. She doesn't want me to have to deal with anything that's like difficult from a mental health perspective. And I know that part of her educating herself, or even asking the questions, that's her taking care of me, because she can't fix it, right? And I don't think that that's easy for a parent, and my dad as well. Like, for them to feel like they're not able to fix something for their child, I think is difficult for them. And so I, like you, it was such a moment for me. I've had a few more open conversations with my dad about it, and with my mom, you know, I just know that she doesn't want me to ever feel like I have something that I can't handle, or something that she can't fix for me. So getting to this place where we're really open about, like, talking about those things, and she's seeing what's on my Instagram, and she's asking me about, you know, my medication and like things like that, it's huge. And it may seem like a small thing, and I don't even know if she knows how huge it was for that moment. But like a minute later, I was like talking to Seth, and I was like, my mom just asked me about my meds. And it's just like something that's just, I don't know. And I'm so glad that like people who are part of our parents' generation are like really taking that seriously for their kids, because I think our generation, and I'm so grateful for this, is talking about it a lot more. We're way more open about the struggles that we have. We're way more open about different medications that we have to take. I think because we don't want anyone else to suffer silently, which, not that I was suffering silently, but I don't know that I felt as open until I took that into my own hands and was like, that's it, I'm talking about it. So,
yeah.
you know, I really appreciate our parents really taking some more time to really understand, because, you know, they're growing too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I want to go back to the message you left for your friend when you walked out of work that day. If you received that message today, what would you say to the person on the other end?
So that message that I left was actually for my therapist. So I had reached out to her and I had said, I need help. And I was sobbing because the only way to get a thing with her was to get a consultation with her, was to leave her a message. And I was just sobbing. And this is the first time this woman is ever hearing from me. And I'm blubbering on the other end of the phone. But I mean, even in that same case, if I heard someone speaking like in the way that I was not okay. It was the worst my mental health has ever been. And if it was a situation like that where a friend is reaching out to me and leaving a message like that, you know, I'm grateful that I have the tools that I have and that I've learned things that I've had, and I know different resources to reach out to and different therapist groups. And the fact that telehealth is a huge thing now, I think is great, because you can seek help from wherever you are. You don't necessarily have to go in somewhere. You know, if it was me, I would be encouraging people to seek those resources happily. I would look them up for someone, because I'm in a place now where I can do that. But providing resources or providing tools that have worked for me, again, everyone's different, so different tools are going to work for different people. So cannot meditate, and that's totally fine. Find the thing that works for you. But offering grounding techniques or things that have worked for me, I'd happily offer to someone else if they were in that space. It's really difficult to assure someone, because with someone in my position, I would seek assurance from people, and that wouldn't necessarily, it would help me temporarily, but it wouldn't help me in the long run. But offering them resources like those Instagram accounts that I follow, like different things, and realizing that like this will pass. I went to an all-girls Catholic school for high school. The whole "this too shall pass" thing was something I would repeat to myself over and over again. And while it was fine back then, it means so much more to me now, because it's true in the situation that I'm in. Like, this will pass. And there's one quote that I have that I do want to read that's important to me. I have a whole OCD highlight on my Instagram, but I really like this one from the OCD blog, and it says, "Compulsions creep in, but my mind holds steadfast. For the exposures I've been facing have taught me this is here not to stay, but to pass." And I think it's really important to not, when you're in the trenches of like ruminating or dealing with compulsions and those thoughts that really just like won't get out of your head, it's really difficult to hear like, this will pass. But again, it's like anything. You need to want help to be able to get the help. And I was at that point. If someone left me that message, I would assume they were at that point. So just being able to talk them through my own experience, give them resources, give them these different accounts, that helped me immensely, because, you know, the way that attention spans work these days. Fine. If I have to get it through an Instagram post, then fine. But a lot of these really break it down, so that's really easy to understand.
So how are you today?
Honestly, I'm great. Things will come up. I'm really able to now, and OCD is something that you're constantly in recovery in. So I have days, it's funny, certain things will trigger an OCD situation for me. Sometimes it's caffeine. I don't drink a lot of alcohol because I know I get really bad anxiety. I'll feel the feeling of anxiety. It will likely put me into a rumination spiral. But because I have the label, because I have the tools, because I, can separate myself from the feelings that I'm having, I can look at myself and say, okay, you had alcohol, like you drank a little too much last night. You're now anxious because you're hungover. This isn't going to last forever. You'll work through it. You'll power through it, and you'll be fine. And you'll realize that you come out on the other end and you're like, okay, I feel better now. I try to avoid caffeine because that gets my anxiety a little rocking. And, I also know that if I have a coffee, I'll be like, okay, if anything comes up, I toss some caffeine into the equation. Probably not the best idea, but I need to stay awake. And I feel so much better now. Again, I always say, I'm about to be 32. And the last few years post-diagnosis have been huge into how I feel now. Again, I was functioning before, I'm living now. I'm able to really be present. Not to say that I don't have those moments where I'm really struggling. Like, I'll have times where I have to talk myself down or I'll meditate, and I can kind of feel myself getting to that point. All things considered, things are pretty great now. And yeah, just trying to figure out life post BuzzFeed, post moving back to the East Coast. And yeah, things are good.
Are you, what is next? Do you have any ideas?
So after BuzzFeed, I moved back to the East Coast. I worked, I did some retail stuff for a while. It's funny, I've taken a little bit of a break from creating a bit. And I'm not happy about it. I miss it. It's really something that brought a lot of joy to my life. And I am happy to say that I'm getting back on that train, which I'm really excited about. I was working as a social media manager for a while, and, now I'm going to move over into making things a bit more for myself and getting back into that and getting back into trying things that really make me happy and creating again. It's something that I it's just a part of me. I actually get that from my dad a little bit. He is also a creator in his own right. But yeah, creating, spreading more awareness, hopefully working with more dog rescues. That's another huge thing that, brings me a ton of joy. I can always say I'm having the worst day. I bring Jax for a walk, meet a few dog friends, and then I'm mood changed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's going to be a lot of, we're moving in a few weeks, which is going to be exciting, into a house, still a rental. Been a little bit of an adjustment in a transitionary period, moving back to the East Coast and really getting, getting my feet on the ground in a real way. But yeah, I'm excited. It's been, it's been a full experience moving back to the East Coast. We're still struggling a little bit from a food perspective. Living in a small town on the South Shore of Massachusetts, I will say, is not like living around the corner from Koreatown. So it's been a real experience. But we're making do. We're making the food ourselves, so it's fine.
Yeah, that is. Yeah. There's a lot of those little adjustments. I moved back to Philly, and I think I have to thank the food gods, because Philly does have some really great food, but there's a lot of things that are an adjustment. And I think when you're a creative person and that creative outlet that sparks you, that helps with, it's therapy, it's a release, it's a form of expression. I think when you're not necessarily also surrounded by that and you're cultivating it yourself to motivate yourself and drive yourself, I think it's a challenge. And it's a test.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So I'm excited to continue to see what you create and what you share with the world. Yeah, because I think that you do have a voice that people listen to, and I think that you should continue to find that creative expression, especially with what you've shared so far. I think you have the ability to create a space where people can relate to you. Yeah.
That's the goal. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your day. And when is your birthday in May?
May 2nd.
Okay. I'm May 19th. So.
Great. Look at that. So many people in my life are May. So.
It's the best month.
Oh, yeah. Naturally.
Yeah. All right. Well, pet Jax for me. And
I will.
Yeah. It's good to see you. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.